I never expected the woman I fought with in public to be the store owner. My life changed forever. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick with tension, buzzing as I pushed open the door to Honest Antiques. I had my heart set on a rare vintage necklace. I wasn't prepared for what awaited me inside. She stood there, a whirlwind of chaos, wild curls cascading around her flushed face, her green eyes burning with a fiery passion. The smell of lavender from the shop mixed with the faint musk of wood and dust. I glanced at the shelves full of forgotten treasures, dusty books, tarnished silverware, and colorful glass jars that shone like jewels in the dim light. But when that necklace slipped from my grasp and shattered on the floor, the air froze. It felt like a bomb detonated in my chest. I bent down, my hands trembling. But before I could even collect the pieces, she exploded. "What are you doing?" Anger bubbled inside me, pounding in my temples. "It was an accident," I shouted back, not caring who heard. The other customers stared, their eyes wide. Shock rippled through the room, thick and heavy. "I don't accept carelessness. What are you going to do about it?" she hissed, stepping closer. Her breath smelled of peppermint and fire. I could feel the heat radiating from her, and for a moment, it was intoxicating. I didn't just see a shop owner. I saw a woman losing control. Little did I know, behind that seething facade lay her story. A story of loss and struggle. I could feel the weight of it hanging in the air, heavy like smoke. She lost family, business, and solace. Maybe that's why she was so harsh, so demanding. But in that moment, all I felt was rage. "Maybe you should learn to treat people better." I threw the words like daggers, watching as they punctured her pride. The room held its breath, the tension palpable and thick. I saw her face turn pale, her eyes glistening as if caught between anger and tears. Silence fell. The shop felt smaller, closing in around us. I could hear the heartbeats of the customers, their eyes darting between us like a tennis match. She took a step back, eyes searching mine. "You don't understand," she whispered, an edge of vulnerability piercing through her bravado. "You never do." Her words struck me. Why did they cut so deep? Maybe I did understand, maybe I was just afraid. But before I could respond, her expression hardened again, filled with a mix of fear and defiance. I left with my heart racing, my mind swirling. I had no idea who she truly was or what I had just unleashed. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days that followed were a blur, each passing moment dragging me deeper into a pit of confusion. Thoughts of that outburst haunted me, festering like an open wound. The sound of shattering glass echoed in my mind, an incessant reminder of that volatile encounter and the spirit behind it. I found myself standing outside Honest Antiques again, unwillingly drawn to it like a moth to a flame. The antique papers still billowed with that musty scent, mingled with hints of lavender. I hesitated, battling the lingering embarrassment and a stubborn urge to make it right. To somehow ease the tension that crackled between us. I pushed the door open. A small bell chimed, and the shop's familiar ambience wrapped around me. It had been only a few days, but it felt like entering a different world. That world was filled with memories, stories, and unfulfilled dreams, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of belonging amidst the chaos. Anna was behind the counter, her shoulders tense as she arranged a display. She looked up, locking eyes with Meher gaze hard and fraught with resentment. A lump formed in my throat, and I swallowed it down. The air between us hummed with unspoken words. "Are you here to make more messes?" she said, voice as sharp as a blade. The bite in her tone stung, but it also struck a nerve deep within me. Flushing crimson, I took a breath, grounding myself. "I wanted to apologize," I said, each word feeling like a pebble I was throwing into an unforgiving ocean. "What happened wasn't intentional. I'm sorry for how I reacted too." Anna looked at me, her expression slipping momentarily. I could see the raw edge beneath her onion, a flicker of vulnerability that she fought hard to conceal. You think saying sorry makes everything all right? This is my life, not a game, she shot back. Yet there was a hint of disbelief in her voice, like she was weighing my sincerity. That I know it's not a game, I replied, taking a step forward, inching closer to the truth we both danced around. I can't stop thinking about what you said, about not understanding. Her defenses wavered for a moment, and for the briefest second, I caught a glimpse of the person beneath the layers of pain. You don't know what I've lost, she murmured, her voice breaking. Every piece in this shop is a reminder of someone I loved. Can you even imagine? The world around us seemed to fade away. All I could hear was the vulnerability threading through her voice. No, I can't, I admitted softly. But I want to understand. I want to help if I can. For an instant, her expression softened, but then the walls snapped back into place. You don't know me, she said fiercely. Just go. This isn't worth your time. I hesitated, feeling a surge of defiance and compassion intertwined. What if I want to know who you are? Why? She exploded, a whirlwind of emotions crashing over her. What do you get out of it? You want to feel good about helping the broken shopkeeper? It's not that simple. I never said it was, I shot back, frustration building. But life isn't simple for any of us. I see something in you, and I can't shake it. Her laughter was empty, tinged with bitterness. You see a mess, a failure wrapped in fading dreams. That's all I am to know, I insisted, taking a step closer, gazing into her eyes. Hoping to convey the truth, I felt this woman was more than her past. You are a warrior. Every object in this shop speaks of resilience. They are a testament to your survival. Silence hung between us, and for a moment, the storm seemed to calm. But the weight of her pain started dawning on me, a dark shadow I could not ignore. Suddenly, the bell chimed again, and an elderly man shuffled in, disrupting our fragile connection. He approached Anna, snapping her back to her role. Excuse me, dear, he greeted her gently, oblivious to the tension simmering in the room. Am looking for something special, a keepsake for my late wife's birthday. Her demeanor shifted instantly, warming beneath the pressure of his vulnerability. Of course, sir. What did she love? As she helped him, I realized something profound. It didn't matter how hard she tried to shield herself. The flickers of kindness still broke through. I watched her interact, and all the pieces began to fit. This was not just about grief, it was about connection. But just as hope began to bloom in my heart, the store became an echo chamber of whispers. The man turned back to me, a concerned frown creasing his brow. Excuse me, miss. Have you heard? There's been talk of a new development in town. Rumor has it, a developer wants to buy out this whole street, including the antique store. Revitalize the area, they say. My heart plummeted. What? No. Anna's posture stiffened, fear flashing in her eyes as she grasped the implications. I saw her dream, her legacy, threatened before us, and the battle I had only begun to understand suddenly became so much greater. As that reality sank in, something shifted inside me, a newfound resolve. And then, from the deep recesses of the shop, tucked behind a shelf, I caught sight of something glimmering, a piece hidden away. It was a vintage necklace, identical to the one I had broken. I reached out, my heart pounding in my chest, as I prepared to uncover something that would change everything between us yet again. I felt the weight of the necklace in my palms, the cool metal an unexpected source of comfort amidst the tempest of emotions swirling within. I had stumbled upon it, like a discarded hope hidden amidst despair. The intricate design brought back memories of playful laughter at the antique shop, of stories woven in fragments under the watchful eyes of time. But now, that laughter felt like a distant echo, replaced by the looming threat of a future none of us had chosen. I turned the necklace over, my fingers tracing the delicate filigree as I slowly approached Anna, her back still turned to me. The elderly man had drifted to the back of the shop, lost in his own memories, but I was rooted to the spot, hesitating between bearing this piece of my heart to her and watching her world crash once more. Anna, I whispered, my breath barely a breeze, but it felt monumental in the charged atmosphere that surrounded us. She turned her head slightly, eyes wary, and that's when I held out the necklace, the glimmer in my hand catching the fading light from the small window. I found this. Her gaze snapped to the necklace, realization dawning on her face. Where did you get that? The sharpness in her voice faltered, unable to mask a flicker of hope buried just under the surface. It was hidden, I replied, my heart racing. Back there, behind the shelves. Just like you, it seems. It shouldn't be forgotten. Anna stepped closer, a magnetic pull drawing us into a world where our past grievances began to blur. You don't understand, this piece is more than just an object. It belonged to my mother. The layers of her anger began unpeeling, revealing a woman edged with hurt, a history woven into every crevice of her voice. How did you? She stammered, gripping the necklace as if it held the power to heal her pain. That IT called to me, I admitted, lowering my gaze as a blush crept into my cheeks. Just like you do, when you let your walls down. I just want to know you. She inhaled deeply, and for a moment, it felt like she might let go of her rage. But the moment was fragile, and the bell chiming again broke our connection. A young couple stepped inside, giggling and whispering. Their bright energy cut through the weight of our exchanged words, a sharp reminder of life beyond these walls. Anna's shoulders stiffened once again, her expression hardening as she hastily shoved the necklace into her pocket, as if hiding away a part of herself she feared was too vulnerable to show. Can I help you? She said, her business facade activated once more, a mask against the encroaching shadows. That I took a step back, feeling as though my feelings had been brushed aside like an unwanted dust. But even amidst her resistance, I noticed something, a flicker of gratitude in her eyes, hidden beneath layers of hurt and pride. I caught her gaze once more, the weight of our previous interactions illuminating the uncertainty within. Wait, I said, as the young couple began their inquiries about decor pieces. About the developer, do you have any plans? Anything you can do? Anna's face darkened. Nothing I can do, she muttered, assembling a small vase to show the young couple. I can't fight City Hall. They all want the same thing, the selfish dream of progress, forgetting people like us. That I pressed on. But what if we could rally support? We could, she snapped at me, her voice a frantic whisper as she admonished. It's not that simple. You're not hearing me. I can't just ask everyone to care. You think they'll give a damn about an old antique shop? The couple was oblivious to the tension that crackled between us, but I couldn't shake the feeling that she needed this reminder as much for herself as for the shop. What if they do care, Anna? What if people want to fight for what matters? As the couple left, their laughter fading into the streets, Anna's eyes softened briefly, but quickly hardened again. Look, I appreciate you trying, but I'm not going to drag you into my mess. It's my battle to fight. And then the door swung open again, this time with a swift urgency that made my heart race. An unfamiliar figure walked in, cloaked in shadows, but as they stepped into the light, I felt my breath hitch. It was her brother, the very brother she had mentioned in Fragments of Sorrow, one she claimed had been lost to moves made long ago. He recognized Anna immediately, and for a moment the world stood still, time warping around the painful reunion brought forth by chance. But the greeting was cold. There were no warm embraces, only an icy silence that wrapped around them like the embrace of winter. Anna, he said, his voice devoid of emotion, yet the tension was palpable, the emotional cliffhanger standing before us pressed in like the ominous shadows falling over the antique shop. I felt a piece of a puzzle slide into place, but as I watched Anna's eyes widen with shock and something akin to fear, I knew this was only the start of a deeper conflict, one that bore the weight of revelations yet to come. The silence was a living thing, stretching between Anna and her brother like an insurmountable chasm. It crackled in the air, thick with unspoken words and the weight of years lost. I stood there, a silent witness to their reunion turned standoff, my heart racing with a mix of anxiety and urgency. Anna, he repeated, his voice cracking slightly, framed with a sharp edge of hurt. But she didn't respond. Instead, she turned her gaze away, fixating on the shelves cluttered with the remnants of a bygone era, fragile treasures that suddenly felt heavy with the burden of her past. Are you just going to ignore me? His impatience dripped from every syllable, reminding me how much family could compel even the strongest to falter. Why are you here, Luca? Anna finally said, her voice stripped of its earlier defiance, laying bare the vulnerability seething beneath her defenses. You made your choice. Luca stepped closer, the shadows of the dimly lit shop creating a world of their own between us. I came for a reason. You need to listen to me. I found something. I don't want to hear what you found. I don't want your pity, she shot back, but the lilt in her voice revealed cracks within her armor. Pity? He scoffed. Do you think that's what this is? Heard about it from a friend, the woman said, her voice warm and inviting, an antidote to the frozen moment. Anna turned, frustration simmering beneath her skin, but something shifted. A flicker of warmth ignited as she turned to attend to the new customer. Yes, welcome, she murmured, though her eyes flickered back to Luca, uncertain and a little bit softer. As the woman began to ask questions about a particular vase that caught her eye. I looked at Luca, and then at Anna. This encounter was the pivot their relationship desperately needed, but would they grasp the chance? The connection was palpable, two souls yearning for understanding in a world wrought with doubts. But as the conversation unfolded, and laughter began to spill into the air, an unexpected ringtone sliced through the moment. Anna's phone buzzed violently on the counter, displaying a notification that made her pale. She snatched up her phone, and her eyes widened with dread. No, she breathed, looking from the screen to her brother and back again, fear overtaking her features. Who is it? Luca asked, concern lacing his voice. City Hall, she said, the trembling of her hands betraying the calm she tried to project. They want to meet. About the shop. The room spun as a fresh wave of panic washed over us. Everything I hoped to mend now feeling precariously unhinged. I could see the resolve in Anna dissolving, replaced by shadows of dread, and I realized we were all on the brink of a precipice, hanging dangerously in the balance. Do you think? Anna said, her voice barely a whisper against the shifting currents of uncertainty. Do you think they've made a decision? But the answer hung suspended in the air as both hope and fear clenched my heart. In that moment, as her brother's gaze widened and the air grew tense once more, it became dreadfully clear that whatever awaited at City Hall had the power to unravel more than just an antique shop's fate. It threatened to reveal secrets long buried within Anna's heart, and I wondered if we were all standing on the edge of something monumental. The bell chimed faintly above us again as the warmth of the stranger's presence faded, leaving Anna and Luca swallowed by the weight of their conflict. I thought about the woman who had walked in, her kind smile a stark contrast to the storm brewing in my friends' hearts. The prospect of discovery hung around us, fragile like the dust motes illuminated by the soft overhead light. Do we have time? Luca suddenly asked, his voice low but urgent. Before you go for whatever is about to happen. Anna's face twisted in conflict, and for a split second, I saw the child peeking through the adult facade she tried so hard to maintain. There's nothing left to hear. Mom's gone. And if the city wants this place, it's not like I can stop them. His features softened, and the pain in his voice echoed like a distant memory. But what if there's more to it? What if she left you something? Or me? His intensity was fierce, and I could see clenching hope battling with desperation. The phone still buzzed against the counter, relentless and mocking in its urgency. Time seemed to narrow, the air thick with unresolved tension. I can't just sit here and hope for miracles, Anna murmured, though even as she spoke, her gaze softened at the mention of their mother. Maybe it's not just about hoping. Maybe it's about fighting for what's right. For her memory, Luca countered, the depth of his sincerity cutting through the fog of honest anxiety. Fighting means nothing when the other side has all the power, she whispered, glancing down at the necklace tucked within her shirt. The possibility of revelations loomed incandescent, yet daunting. Not if we're in it together, he urged, desperation creeping into his voice. We need to work together. We can uncover the truth, Anna. Whatever it is, the mention of together brought a moment of clarity. I saw a tiny spark in Anna's eyes, a dimension of hope she had nearly forgotten how to express. You think this journal holds all the answers? She asked, drawing on a thread of curiosity reinforced by the weighty apprehension of her impending meeting. It's worth finding out, isn't it? He pressed, instinctively reaching out to stroke her arm, grounding their fragile connection in a moment of tender resilience. Together, that touch sparked something, a flicker of the lasting bond they once shared. The storm surged within them, a mixture of fear, hope, and a longing to reclaim their lost history. And yet, as the phone vibrated again, calling out to her more loudly than the murmur of connection, I felt the danger of the moment swell. Okay, she whispered finally, her voice trembling but resolute. All right, necessitate a decision, a pathway that could distance them once more or bind their fates irrevocably. The paradox of twins pulled together by threads of blood, yet torn by the ghosts of things unsaid, thrummed through the space. Now? Luca asked, the desperation crackling in the air. Anna looked back at him, her decision etched in the lines of her expression. Yes, we have to face this. One way or another, we'll find out what Mom wanted us to know. This is for her, and for us. But as she moved towards the door, something in her shifted. The anticipation lingered like an unsung melody in the air, and I realized we were standing at the brink of something monumental. Beyond those doors lay truth. But the question remained. Were they ready for what would surface? As they stepped out into the city's heartbeat, the sun dipped low, shadowing their path with uncertainty. For the first time, the air buzzed with possibilities. Each step could lead to a discovery that might uplift or shatter their tenderness. And as they vanished into the tumult of life outside, I felt the air deepen with an unshakable specter of change. What awaited Anna and Luca was etched into the fabric of their fate, something powerful, possibly dangerous in uncharted territory that would test the strength of their connection in ways neither of them could yet fathom. In a world swirling with memories and lost dreams, they were about to uncover the threads that would stitch their narrative together or tear it apart. The bustling streets of the city swallowed Anna and Luca in a whirlwind of noise as they moved towards City Hall. The fading sunlight spilled over buildings like honey, each shard of light illuminating their faces with a wavering hope that felt both foreign and familiar. Yet with each step, the anticipation nestled deep in Anna's gut began to curl into a tight knot. The earlier moment of courage seemed like a thin veneer, barely holding together the fears beneath it. Oh, you think she really left us something? Luca's voice broke through her spiral of thoughts, grounding her momentarily. The innocence in his question was both comforting and painful. She fought the urge to pull away. Instead, she kept her gaze forward, focusing on the tall columns of the building ahead, each step leaving imprints of uncertainty etched in the concrete. Maybe, Anna said, her tone caught somewhere between optimism and despair. I can't shake the feeling that whatever it is, it could change everything. It could mean something we don't want to face. The previous resolve began to crack under the weight of her own expectations. She hadn't meant to voice her deepest fears, but there they were laid bare under the slick exterior of the polished city. Luca touched her elbow lightly, urging her to stop and look at him. Together, remember? We can handle anything, especially if it's about her. The connection pulsed between them, but Anna couldn't help but feel that the spirit of their mother lingered at the edges of their confrontation, watching them turn toward a path fraught with potential collisions. I hope so, she replied, steeling herself against the tumult of doubts threatening to overwhelm her. They approached the imposing steps of City Hall, the grand doors ahead like the portal to an entirely different world. As they stepped inside, the echoes of their footsteps were swallowed by high ceilings adorned with opulent chandeliers, and the walls whispered tales of power, governance, and hidden agendas. Anna felt her heart thunder against her ribcage, the weight of her mother's legacy pressing down like lead. Just stay close, she urged Luca, a plea more for her own solace than his. An air of expectation buzzed around them, punctuated by the murmurs of others in the waiting area, all anxiously waiting their turn to begin the dance with bureaucracy. They approached the reception desk, where a stern woman with glasses perched precariously on the bridge of her nose glanced up, her expression betraying little warmth. Your names? She demanded, typing rapidly on a keyboard, eyes scanning the screen as if their very presence was an inconvenience. Anna and Luca Verdi. Their names hung in the air like a prayer, a wish for validation, and belonging amidst the sterile officialdom of the place. Follow the signs to room 204. They're expecting you, she replied curtly, dismissing them with a wave of her hand. As they walked toward the designated room, Anna's mind drifted to the letter now nestled in her pocket, a weight that felt both burdensome and precious. She wondered if it contained answers or only more heartache. The hall stretched before them like an ominous horizon, and with every step, the clarity of her decision dulled. They arrived at the door, its surface cold and uninviting. Sensing her hesitation, Luca nudged her gently. Let's do this. Taking a steadying breath, Anna pushed the door open. Inside, a panel of city officials waited, their expressions an eerie blend of neutrality and hidden agendas. "Ah, the Verdi siblings," one man said, rising from his seat, his smile tight and professionally rehearsed. "Thank you for coming." As they stepped inside, the room seemed to close in around them, cocooning them within the gravity of what was to unfold. The man gestured for them to sit, telling them about the implications of the shop's impending closure and the city's plans. The language felt foreign and alien to Anna, the words flowing past her like specters of a cruel fate. Just as she thought the meeting couldn't spiral further into despair, another officiala woman with striking red hair leaned forward, an unreadable expression on her face. "We've come to understand your mother had a connection to certain historic documents," she said, and Anna's heart skipped a beat. "Documents that might prove essential to our current discussions." "What do you mean?" Anna burst out, a blend of hope and anger igniting within her. "Your mother wasn't just a shop owner. She was part of something larger in the community, something that could complicate this transaction," the woman explained, each word cementing the idea of a legacy overshadowed by the mundane demands of the present. "We believe she left behind clues leading to these documents." Lucas' hand gripped Anna's tightly, a reminder of the bond they forged and the storm they were stepping into. The fragments of their mother's life were unfurling into a tapestry rich with purpose, but the repercussions swung heavily above them like a guillotine. "Where are they?" Anna demanded, her voice a quiet storm of passion and fear. "Unfortunately, they could be lost, and if my instincts are correct, someone might be willing to do anything to keep it that way," the woman revealed, and Anna felt the air thicken with foreboding. It was a warning, but from whom? The city, or perhaps from whoever sought to bury the secrets their mother had left behind. Before she could contemplate further, the door swung open with a bang, spilling an unexpected figure into the room. The woman who had walked into the shop earlier, her fleeting kindness now a haunting apparition, stood before them, her eyes brimming with a fierce urgency. "I need to tell you everything. We don't have much time." Anna's breath caught in her throat, reality warping into a panorama of revelations, and as the words hung in the air, an electric shock coursed through her. Was this the moment she had been waiting for, the beginning of an unfolding nightmare that would unravel the fabric of everything she held dear? The answer loomed, eclipsing their past, and the air surged with the promise of salvation wrapped in chaos. The weight had shifted irrevocably, but what would it cost them to unveil the truth about their mother? In that charged moment, as the stranger's gaze held theirs, they stood on the cusp of untold discovery, the consequences of which would change their lives forever. Anna's heart raced as the woman Sophie, she remembered, stepped fully into the room, the door swinging shut behind her with an ominous finality. The stark contrast between the sterile, formal atmosphere of the panel and the raw urgency emanating from Sophie was palpable, sending tension crackling in the air. Anna's stomach twisted, torn between the vulnerability of her past and the daunting unknown of her mother's legacy. "Anna, Luca, listen to me," Sophie implored, urgency etching lines across her brow. "What I'm about to say could put us all in danger, but you need to know." "What do you mean?" Anna's voice came out sharper than intended, the remnants of her earlier resolve dissolving in the face of this unexpected turn. "Who's in danger?" Sophie's eyes darted to the officials, who sat back, their expressions inscrutable. "Your mother had something hidden, a collection of documents that could shift political power in the city. People are willing to go to great lengths to keep it buried, even from you." Lucas' grip tightened around Anna's hand, his anxiety contagious. "What do you know?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper, but filled with the defiance of someone desperate for answers. "More than I probably should," Sophie replied. "A few months ago, I noticed something strange while helping your mother organize her shop. She received messages, old letters that hinted at connections well beyond her storefront. I think she was uncovering something, and I fear that might have cost her everything." Anna's mind raced, piecing together fragments of memories, a strange phone call in the middle of the night, the way their mother's expression would darken when the topic of her past arose, the cryptic warnings whispered into the silence of their home when they thought they were sleeping. What exactly did she find? Sophie hesitated, weighing the consequences of her words. "There are maps, old plans, things relating to the city's historic districts that could challenge the current administrations. They are not just pieces of paper. They're power. Power? Power for what? The question clawed at Anna's throat, echoing both her fear and her curiosity. For restoration or destruction, depending on who gets their hands on these documents first, Sophie said, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. Your mother intended to fight for the community. She believed in preserving what made this city our home worth fighting for, but someone among the city officials is pushing for its demolition. The gravity of the situation settled around them like a thick fog. Anna glanced at Luca, the reality etched on his face mirroring her own turmoil. A flood of emotions swelled: anger, betrayal, fear, but beneath it all, a faint flicker of hope ignited. They were not merely acting in their mother's memory. They were discovering their own purpose in a turbulent tide of revelations. Just as Anna opened her mouth to gather her thoughts, the door burst open again, interrupting the moment. A stern-looking man in a sharp suit entered, his expression a mix of impatience and annoyance. We need to continue this meeting, he announced curtly, eyeing Sophie with evident disdain. You have no business here. Sophie stood her ground, defiance radiating from her as she faced the newcomer. They deserve to know the truth about their mother, she insisted. Don't you dare silence them for your agenda. Anna felt her heart pound as the tension escalated. This was more than just about documents. Danger was closing in. The sound of her racing pulse filled her ears as she tried to make sense of conflicting emotions crashing within her. We need to find our mother's research, Anna said resolutely, her heart pounding with determination. If she was onto something, we can't allow it to go to waste just because it's inconvenient for others. The man scowled but hesitated. You have no idea the consequences of digging into things best left buried, he warned, his tone chilling. Maybe, Luca chimed in, stepping forward with surprising bravery. But if we don't fight for what's ours, then what's the point of any of it? Sophie smiled, both proud and relieved, as the man's expression soured further. You don't know who you're dealing with, he said before swiftly exiting the room. Anna and Luca exchanged glances, the air heavy with an unspoken agreement. They had to act and make sense of their mother's legacy, not just for her, but for themselves, for the future of their community. Yet lurking shadows whispered warnings, wrapping around them like cold fingers, threatening to draw them into a deeper conflict. With a burst of energy, Anna turned to Sophie. Where do we start? Do you have any of the letters or maps she found? Sophie hesitated, her brow furrowing in contemplation. If we're going to do this, we need to meet in private. I know a place, but it won't be safe for long. We have to move quickly. As they plotted their next steps, Anna felt a surge of hope intermingled with trepidation. The tide was turning, and with it, the gravity of their mother's legacy pulled them closer to an uncertain destiny. The revelations were opening a door, but would they have enough strength to step through it unscathed? Without warning, her phone buzzed in her pocket, breaking the tension of the moment. Pulling it out, Anna's breath caught as she read the message flashing on the screen. A problem they hadn't anticipated had just appeared. It's them, she whispered, dread pooling in her stomach. Uncertainty crashed over her, bearing down like an avalanche as she realized the true stakes of their journey had just escalated dramatically. What they had uncovered could very well endanger not only their lives, but also the future of the entire community they sought to protect. The hum of fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as they shuffled out of the conference room, a whirlwind of doubt and clenched fists. Anna's mind raced, each thought a jagged edge cutting through the lingering air of tension. The corridor seemed endless, and yet she felt as if they were being watched, the walls closing in around them. Luca walked close beside her, his eyes darting around as if in search of an escape route. She wanted to reassure him, to tell him everything would be okay, but deep down, she knew that nothing about their situation was simple. Sophie led them down a narrow staircase that spiraled to the basement, her footsteps echoing against the cold concrete. The tension crackled between them, the weight of impending danger resting on Anna's shoulders. What if we're walking into a trap? She worried aloud, her voice barely carrying over the sound of their footsteps. Sophie paused briefly, pressing her lips into a firm line. That's a risk we take by getting involved. But I believe your mother was onto something important. We owe it to her to follow this lead, even if it's dangerous. Anna nodded slowly, her heart pounding with uncertainty. It was one thing to be motivated by her mother's legacy, and another to wade into unknown waters that threatened their very existence. And what about the man who interrupted us? What if he tells someone we're snooping around? Then we move quicker, Sophie countered, determination hardening her gaze. We can't let fear dictate our actions. As they reached the basement, Sophie pushed open a heavy door, revealing a small, cluttered storage area lined with boxes and old furniture. Dust danced in the beams of light that seeped through a small window, illuminating what once might have been a lively space, but now felt suffocated by layers of neglect. This was your mother's little hideaway. She kept a lot of her findings here, away from prying eyes. Anna stepped inside, feeling a wave of ambivalence crash over her. This was where her mother had spent time, preserving pieces of a life Anna barely knew. She felt nostalgic for a woman she could barely remember, but longed to understand the sacrifices she had made, the secrets she had guarded. With careful hands, she lifted a box from the corner labeled documents, her breath hitching as she unearthed it. Luca nudged the box open further, inhaling sharply at the sight of the contents. "Look, maps," he exclaimed, pulling out old, yellowed papers that depicted the city's plans and neglected areas, now marked with notes and red ink. "This is incredible." As they sifted through the contents, Anna felt a mixture of excitement and dread. Each discover unearthed more questions. What had her mother found? Why had it been hidden? But that spark of hope was quickly overshadowed when a deep voice echoed from the stairwell, sending a wave of cold fear through Anna's veins. "You're not supposed to be down here." They turned to see the same stern-faced man from the meeting, flanked by two others who wore expressions of grim determination. Anna's heart sank as she realized they had been followed. Panic surged through her, and her instincts screamed for them to flee, but her feet felt rooted to the ground, immobilized by the weight of the confrontation. "Get back," Sophie shouted, pushing Anna and Luca behind her. "This isn't over. Now. Let's not be hasty," the man said smoothly, his voice calmed but dripping with menace. "I have connections who are very interested in your mother's findings, and controlling this information is of utmost importance. What would a shopkeeper know about running a city?" Anna felt a swell of anger at his insult directed at Sophie, the woman who had put herself on the line to help them. "She's not just a shopkeeper. She is." Her voice faltered, caught between defending Sophie's honor and the reality of the threat. "She's someone trying to protect our community." "Protect?" The man laughed, a harsh sound that echoed between the walls. "The truth is, you're delving into matters that could get you very hurt. So erase the deal, walk away, and nobody gets hurt. Or, you can choose to dig deeper and pay the price of your curiosity." For a moment, it felt as if the world slowed, each heartbeat reverberating through the silence that stretched between them. The air was thick with danger, electricity crackling with unwelcome possibility. In the eye of that storm, a thought flashed through Anna's mind like a lightning strike. "What if we don't walk away?" she challenged, finding a spark of courage. "What if we fight back?" The man's eyes narrowed, a glimmer of surprise flickering across his expression. He stepped forward, a calculated menace radiating from him. "Then you'll find just how ruthless I can be." Lucas' grip tightened on her arm as Sophie stepped forward defiantly. "You underestimate us. We won't be intimidated into silence." Anna felt a shift in the atmosphere, as if something monumental was about to unfold. She opened her mouth to speak, to promise they wouldn't back down, but before she could form the words, the lights flickered ominously above them, plunging the basement momentarily into darkness. The loud thud echoed behind them, and when the lights flickered back to life, one of the men had vanished. In his place, shadows danced on the wall, and the threat felt more real than ever. Panic surged again, but a voice in Anna's head urged her to stay strong. Whatever secrets wrapped around her mother's legacy were now entangled with her own survival, and the choices she made in this moment would shape the future for her and her brother. Suddenly, an unexpected sound broke the tense. Iona's soft knock at the door behind them. It echoed through the room, and for a fleeting second, Anna felt a glimmer of hope. But when she turned to see who had arrived, her heart dropped into the abyss as the door creaked open to reveal a figure she never expected, standing just outside, ready to change everything yet again. Anna's breath caught in her throat as she took in the figure standing in the doorway. It was Clara, The woman she had argued with at the market only days ago, her face a mix of urgency and fear. The tension coiled tighter in the room, as if the air itself had taken a deep, anxious breath. "What are you doing here?" Anna's voice trembled at the edges, a mixture of betrayal and bewilderment washing over her. Clara had stood so vehemently against the developers, against everything Anna was now stumbling into. How could she be wrapped up in this, too? "Are you okay?" Clara asked, her gaze darting to the man who threatened them. Fear flickered in her dark eyes, but it was coupled with determination that made her appear more resilient than Anna had first assumed. "I heard there was trouble. I followed you after the meeting." "You followed us," Luca echoed, skepticism threading through his tone. "Why would you do that?" "Because your mother's findings matter, and I know they're dangerous," Clara replied, her voice steadying as she stepped inside. "I thought you'd be in trouble, and it seems I was right. We need to get out of here." The man in the room took a menacing step forward, but Sophie moved protectively in front of Anna and Luca. "Do you think you can just walk in here and dictate what happens?" She spat, her fists clenched. "You're as bad as he is." Anna's mind raced, weighing the risk of trusting Clara against the danger of remaining trapped in the basement. But Clara's presence also offered a thread of Safekia wild card they hadn't considered. "No, wait," Anna shouted, surprising even herself. "Maybe she can help us. You don't know her." Sophie argued, her voice dropping to a harsh whisper. "She could be leading us into a trap enough." Clara shouted, her voice slicing through the tension as effectively as a knife. "I'm here because I believe in what your mother was trying to uncover, and if we don't act now, it'll all be lost." Her eyes softened as she met Anna's gaze, a silent plea swirling in the depth of them. "Just trust me." For a moment, time seemed to halt, the oppressive aura thick around them like a shroud. Anna searched Clara's face for a sign of deception, but found instead a resolution that mirrored the resolve building in her heart. The world outside was collapsing around them, and all she could do was try to save what remained. Feeling the weight of the decision ahead, she nodded slowly. "Well, listen, but the moment you give us a reason not to trust you, I won't," Clara interjected fiercely. "We don't have time for doubt. They're closing in." Suddenly, the man grinned, a smirk that sent icy tendrils crawling up Anna's spine. "How touching," he said, his voice oozing mockery. "But no matter how hard you try, you can't outrun the truth. Your mother dug too deep, and now the price is due." Before she could grasp the implication of his words, a haunting sound echoed from behind them, the quick, rapid patter of footsteps approaching the basement. Anna's heart raced. The backing of shadows hinted there were more of them, and the walls seemed to pulse with the threat of impending confrontation. "We have to go now," Sophie urged, her eyes scanning for an exit. And although the room felt suffocating, a sense of urgency ignited the air. Clara turned sharply back to the door. "Follow me," she instructed, moving swiftly towards the narrow staircase. The path felt labyrinthine as they navigated clutter and dark corners. A sense of claustrophobia settled over them. They could hear the murmurs and footsteps growing closer, each beat echoing like a warning. But just as they reached the top of the stairs, the sound of footsteps stopped abruptly behind them. "What now?" Anna whispered, panic clawing at her throat. They couldn't go back down, not with the man recklessly hunting them. Clara glanced over her shoulder, her expression tight, a single word escaping her lips: "Hide." No sooner had she said it than the basement door slammed open with such force it rattled the wall. The light poured in, casting sharp shadows across the room, revealing two figures standing in the frame, their intentions as unreadable as their faces. "Get them!" the men shouted, rushing in. Their footsteps echoed like thunder as the confrontation unfolded. Anna's heart dropped anew. There was no navigating their way through this. They were trapped, and with every beat, the shadows tightened around her. As they backed into an old storage room, her mind raced to grasp the reality settling over them like a dark veil, moments away from choices that could change everything. That was when Clara leaned close to Anna, her voice low, heavy with urgency. "You need to know something about your mother. There's more than what you've been told. Much more." Before she could process those sudden words, the whir of the fluorescent lights buzzed angrily overhead. And just as the echoes of footsteps surged forward, Anna felt the world tilt beneath her, her heart racing with fear as the reality of what they had stumbled into threatened to drag them all down into chaos. As I stood in that shadowy storage room, surrounded by uncertainty and fear, Clara's words hung in the air like a whisper from the grave. My heart thudded wildly against my ribs as I wrestled with the revelation that there was more to my mother's story than I had ever realized. She hadn't just been an antique shop owner. She had been a protector, a warrior shielding a legacy that was now teetering on the edge of collapse. Clara, I breathed, urgency coursing through me. What do you mean? What else is there? My voice trembled in the darkness, the sounds of approaching footsteps reverberating like a countdown to calamity. But before Clara could respond, the door to our hiding place rattled violently. I felt a surge of panic rise in my throat, choking off my ability to think clearly. One of the men outside shouted, "They're in here. We know you're in there. Give up now, and no one gets hurt." The threat sat heavy in the air, suffocating. In that moment of terror, I realized that whatever secrets my mother had hidden, whatever truth Clara was about to share, they wouldn't matter if we didn't make it out of this alive. I caught Lucas' eye, and he nodded slightly, a silent agreement that we had to stick together. "We have to break out of here," I said, taking charge, although dread settled in my gut like lead. "We can't let them take us, or what our mother fought for." Clara leaned closer, her face fierce under the dim light. "The documents your mother uncovered connect to the heart of the city. The developers aren't just destroying the shop, they're erasing history, ties to our community. It's bigger than just the land." Her words rekindled a fire within me. It was about more than my mother. It was about user future, our home. But the walls felt like they were closing in. The men were just outside, their voices creeping closer. "Now?" Clara urged. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, we pushed through the musty stacks of furniture, searching for an escape route. My heart hammered as I yanked at a rusted door that led to a narrow service stairwell. Behind us, the men were still shouting, their impatience spurring them forward, each shout filled with malice and intent. "Here!" I shouted, my arms shoving the door open. We rushed through the threshold, the stench of damp metal filling my nostrils as we descended the stairwell, footsteps echoing all around us. As we reached the bottom step, I glimpsed through a small window what lay outside a narrow alley threaded between buildings and buzzing with the noise of a moving city. We could make it. We just had to stay focused, undeterred by our fears. "We need to split up," I suggested, adrenaline coursing through me. "They'll expect us to run together." Luca and Clara exchanged glances, their faces revealing the gravity of my suggestion. "We can't leave each other," Luca stated, panic rising in his tone. "What if we won't?" I interrupted, grasping his shoulders firmly, forcing him to meet my gaze. "We'll regroup at Honest Antiques. Trust me." There was a pause before Luca nodded, a flicker of understanding brightening his eyes. Clara nodded too, although I could see the worry etched on her face. Before I could change my mind, we turned and bolted out the service door, tumbling into the cool air of the alley. My mind raced as we fled, the city pulsating with life just outside. The noise of commotion felt like a bittersweet sweetener to the chaos forming in our lives. Once outside, we scurried through a labyrinth of side streets, aware that danger was always just behind us, pounding and breathless. The atmosphere inside was surprisingly calm, lit with flickering candles casting shadows on the worn walls. A few patrons sat scattered about, half listening to soft music drifting through the air. "Back there," Clara directed, leading us toward the far corner, where half a dozen brightly colored curtains cordoned off a seating area. We ducked behind the fabric, our breaths loud against the silence of the cafe. "Now what?" Luca whispered, glancing towards the entrance. "What if they find us?" I closed my eyes for a moment, gathering my thoughts as the adrenaline slowly ebbed away. "We need to prepare," I said, my voice steadying. "Clara, what did you find about the documents? What are we up against?" Clara took a deep breath, the urgency re-establishing her resolve. "There are maps, proposals, and letters from your mother suggesting that the developers were planning not just to tear down the shop, but to create a comprehensive development plan that erases the heritage of the entire neighborhood. It's more sinister than just money. It's about control over our history and identity." The weight of the words sank into my chest, each syllable anchoring the reality of what we faced. It hit me. If we didn't act, the memory and the spirit of my mother, as well as all the lives tied to her legacy, could be lost forever. How do we get access to those documents? We need proof. I have contacts, people who can help us uncover what's been buried, she continued. But if we go public, it could draw more attention, dangerous attention. I looked at Luca, who met my gaze with concern. What do you think? The strength of my emotions surged as I considered our mother, her fight for the heart of this community, and my own desire to reclaim that fight. We have to do it. We can bring people together. We have to stand up. Clara nodded, determination echoing in her resolve. Together we can make a wave, rally the community. We protect our heritage, stand against what they want to take away. Before we could entertain what lay ahead further, a figure burst through the door. It froze me with dread. The man from the meeting, eyes sharp and mouth curled into a smirk, stepped into the cafe, his gaze scanning the room. My heart clenched as the reality hit. Their threat was closing in. Split up, I hissed, my voice urgent as I yanked back the curtain. Go now? The three of us dashed in different directions, sprinting through the scattered tables, leaving chaos in our wake. I shot a glance back, just in time to see him pointing, yelling for reinforcements, and it ignited a fire within me to escape. Without thinking, my feet propelled me toward an exit at the back of the cafe. I pushed through the door and burst into the street, the cool air pressing against me as I hurried forward, weaving through people. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, adrenaline surging through my veins. Anna! I heard Luca shout from somewhere nearby, and I swung around, my heart racing as I scanned the crowd. But Clara! Clara! It felt surreal amidst the stacks of people milling around, some oblivious while others sensed the encroaching chaos. I could hear the men's footsteps closing in behind me, urgency tightening the muscles in my body as panic clawed the inside of my chest. Then I saw it not too far ahead. Clara darted into an alleyway, waving at me to follow. I dashed toward her, relief flooding my system when I caught up. Are you okay? I gasped, needing to know she was safe above all. She nodded, breathless but determined. Where's Luca? He was right behind us. It raised a knot of anxiety within me. We can't leave him. Just then, the sounds of shouts echoed through the streets, footsteps hammering underfoot. Time flew as we desperately searched for where Luca could have vanished. The urgency spurred us beyond fear, propelling us through winding streets. With every glance over my shoulder, I felt that weight of reckoning. The stakes were sky-high. We have to regroup, Clara urged, pressing forward as best as we could. Fragments of strategy began weaving through my mind, ideas of how the community could rally against the villainy that threatened to sweep my mother's legacy away. Clara, think. I breathed heavily. If we can find anyone who connects back to our mother, someone who knew her plans, even the past owners of the shop, people she worked with, we can find our strength through their stories. Clara nodded, and for the first time, I felt a wave of hope within that tempest of fear. An idea formed, one that could potentially connect with others who had been affected, who felt as vulnerable as we were now. If we create a timeline, make visible what they've been hiding, show how this isn't merely an attack on the shop, that it's an assault on the people and the community, we can gather support. Yes, and we can use social media, build a campaign. But first, we need to get to safety. We turned a corner, breathless and ready to forge ahead into a movement, a fight born from my mother's desire for change. But just as hope intertwined with our fears, a sharp shot rang out into the air, piercing through the swirling chaos. My heart stopped, a chime of terror swelling in my chest as I ducked instinctively. Screams erupted around me, the din of people scattering in every direction that I turned, adrenaline coursing through my veins, anticipating chaos to unravel around us. Clara's eyes widened with fear, but amidst the fray, there was an uncanny resolve that sparked within me. We can't let them win. We have to fight back, I shouted, all voices growing silent around me, transformed by a singular Visiona call for justice, rooted in love for our community and the memories of everyone who came before us. Back! Get inside! Clara yelled, and together we weaved through the startled crowd, eyes darting between alleyways and doorways. If there was a way out, we'd find it together. As urgency propelled us forward, the echo of my heart aligned with the chants rising around us. A chorus of loss, resilience, and purpose began to swell, intertwining with the story we sought to illuminate. As we fled into the unknown, one sentiment remained: aflame with certainty. My mother's legacy would not be silenced. This was only the beginning of our fighter revelation wrapped in unyielding belief. And no matter the consequence, we would forge ahead, fueled by the indomitable spirit of hope. For as long as the truth triumphed and hearts united, we would blaze a trail for the legacy that time refused to erase. With that surge of determination and connection guiding us, I felt a spark ignite within me, a belief that would carry us through these fraught moments. This is what I had been looking for all along. My purpose not merely to preserve the past, but to continue the fight for the future. I promised myself that I wouldn't give up. And as we rallied into the pulsating heart of the city, hand in hand, it felt like the fire of my mother burning bright within us. We were not just voices in the winds of change. We were part of the victory, fighting against the tides that sought to erase us. The battle for our identity had begun, and we would not bow down without a fight. For in unity there was strength, and truth had the power to reshape destinies. The journey was just beginning, and I felt invincible in my resolve to protect what we loved. So the dappled shadows smoothed beneath the city lights, carrying the echo of my mother's spirit, urging us forward into the night. Remembering, I must carry her legacy into the light, together with those I loved, while the world was forever shaped around us. A story forged anew in resilience, where I would always find a way to stand strong. And that night, I stepped forward into the unknown, ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that nothing would ever truly silence a heart filled with love and an unwavering will to fight for the future we believed in.